Yo, I'm Bob. Into Marvel, happen to be totally blind since birth, talking about X-Men the Animated Series, Season 4, Episode 5, or Episode 50 of the animated series if you're watching in chronological order, and this one is Xavier Remembers. It premiered on April 27th in 1996. Spoilers ahead, so if you haven't seen the episode, I'd advise you to watch it before you watch this review, or you're going to get spoiled. That being said, jumping right in, and you were warned. When this episode premiered, I missed it. And I only found out about it because around sometime in 1995, 96, they would start showing little snippets of episodes during the closing credits. And the snippets would be from previous episodes. So I happened upon a scene from this one during the closing credits of another episode in which they showed scenes from a previous episode. And I remember thinking, well, when the heck did this one come on? And how in the heck did I miss it? But apparently I did, because I heard Maurice Dean Wint talking to Jean and Xavier, and I was like, the Shadow King's back. When did he come back? I've been waiting to see him since he showed up in season 2. So yeah, we get another episode featuring the Shadow King, and I said it in Whatever It Takes, and I'll say it again. I really love what Maurice Dean Wint does as the Shadow King, and it's awesome to hear him in this, as well as Marvel vs. Capcom, the video game in which he voices Onslaught. He has such I think, a sinister voice, and I love him in both roles. So Xavier has apparently suffered a mild concussion, and this leaves him open to the Shadow King's manipulations. The Shadow King is, of course, trapped in the astral plane. And when we start the episode, I wish I'd watched this one when it premiered. I mean, we hear Xavier say, "Why can't I move?" And he's just, trying to figure out how in the heck he got into the situation. He's watching all of the X-Men fall. We have Wolverine, who's attacked by Sabretooth, and this is happening, as far as Xavier knows, in the safety of the X-Mansion. So you have Sabretooth attacking Wolverine. You have Sentinels attacking Jubilee. I'm not sure what's going on with Storm. She's having to deal with claustrophobia. Very tight spaces, I would imagine. No audio cues in these older episodes, just in X-Men 97, as I've said in all of the X-Men and Spider-Man episode reviews. But you can tell what's going on because of, the context clues, the dialogue. You've got Cyclops and Jean being attacked by Mr. Sinister. I wonder if the Nasty Boys are there, and we're just not hearing them. They don't have any dialogue. That's going on. And you have the X-Men, in reality. They're worried about Xavier. Beast is tending to him. Jean's there. Scott's there. And yeah, he suffered a concussion. And they're watching his vital signs drop. Because after he's witnessed the X-Men fall, he thinks he's in the afterlife. He thinks he's with his mother. You have Shadow King posing as his mother, which is very devious. And Mommy is trying to get Xavier to let go and to be with the other X-Men. She sounds, very, very creepy, which I think is fitting. I wonder if Xavier's not wise as to how creepy Mom sounds here. Maybe Mom is supposed to sound soothing, but just the way that she says certain things, like when he's asking, "Well, where are the X-Men? I'm glad to see you, but where are my X-Men?" And she's like, "They're here too." And I was like, "Ooh, don't do that, lady. We know who you are." Hopefully Charles figures that out very quickly. I remember thinking that when I first saw the episode. I wouldn't see this episode when when it was airing on TV at all. I think I first saw it when I got the X-Men sent to me. I bought it from, I think I mentioned this in another video, from some guy who was making VHS copies of the animated series in like 2003 or thereabouts, summer of 2003. I got the VHS tapes, and that's how I first saw this one. But yeah, he sees the other X-Men there. Wolverine is telling him to let go. Jubilee is trying to convince him to let go. Storm is there too. Of course, it is the Shadow King, being the master mind manipulator that he is. And then Xavier, he starts to remember his encounter with the Shadow King when he was human, before Xavier banished him to the astral plane. And we get to see a young Aurora, a young Storm, and she somehow steals his wallet. I think she has a little monkey hanging around with her too. I don't know if the monkey's there with her, if he's just kind of hanging out. But Xavier's very amused by Storm, I think, when his wallet is stolen. At least I think that's Storm. I always thought that was Storm as a child, because we find out in the season 2, episode 3, that Storm was manipulated by the Shadow King when she was a child. So, we have her giggling here, and he goes to the restaurant and he has that argument with Shadow King here about how, getting children to steal is, well, of course, it's wrong. And you have Shadow King who's looking down on humanity, and he calls Homo sapiens stupid creatures, and they deserve to be exploited. And there are scenes here that don't really have any dialogue, but I think we do get to see Xavier battling the Shadow King, and we actually get to see him banished to the astral plane. Whereas in Whatever It Takes, I think we just hear about it, but here we actually get that flashback. As to whether or not Xavier has his legs in this episode, I don't know whether or not he's able to use his legs. Of course, he has his legs, he just can't use them. I don't know if he's walking in this one or if he's in a wheelchair at this point. So yeah, he's remembering why he formed the X-Men. I would imagine if he hadn't already had the altercation with Magneto, that might have happened after, or it could have happened before. I'm just not sure of so much in this episode, because we have a lot of scenes here where there's a bit of dialogue as to what's going on, but you don't, well, if you're totally blind, you're not really caught up with all the visuals as to what's going on in this. I really wish Disney Plus would do audio description tracks to the original animated series. This is an episode that needs it quite badly, I think. But I still really enjoy the episode because we get to see Shadow King finally having that rematch with Xavier. In Whatever It Takes, Xavier had gone to help Magneto, and he'd been trapped in the Savage Land. So you got to see Rogue and Storm dealing with Shadow King. In this, he's making a comeback, and now he's trapping Xavier on the astral plane. And there's this really creepy scene where he makes an exchange. You have Xavier out of commission, and you have Shadow King, who manages to possess him for a short time. You have Xavier recovering, or so the X-Men believe, and it is, of course, Shadow King actually using his voice for a little bit, which is really creepy. When we saw Shadow King possessing Storm in Season 2, it is not Alison Seeley Smith, it is Shadow King's voice coming through Storm's vocal cords. But here you have Shadow King, actually speaking in Xavier's voice for a little bit when he's telling them, "Oh yes, but now I'm back," and then we actually get him attacking the minds of the X-Men, and these scenes are, I would imagine, very similar to what we got in the beginning of the episode. Wolverine thinks he's being attacked by Sabretooth, Jubilee by the Sentinels, Storm, well, she's experiencing claustrophobia, and you have Mr. Sinister attacking, I No, I don't think Mr. Sinister's there at all. He wouldn't be, because Scott and Jean are with Xavier. They're all awake. You have Beast there, who is trying his best to revive Charles. And you have Jean, who goes into the astral plane because Xavier is able to reach out to her. And it just goes to show how strong of a bond that Xavier has with Jean, because she goes on and into the astral plane, and they do battle with the Shadow King. A lot of silence here as they're fighting, but of course, ultimately you have Jean and Xavier besting the Shadow King, and he is imprisoned once again. But I like how confident Jean is in her powers at this point, because at one point she says, we're going to beat him because you've taught me too well. And Xavier is encouraging her, she's encouraging him, and we get to see not teacher and student here, but I think we get to see friends, we get to see individuals that have found family. We get to see these two working together to best this foe, and he is ultimately imprisoned once again. And I'm sure it's an interesting scene. I don't know what all they're manifesting here in terms of their weapons, in terms of their psychic abilities here. And yeah, he's defeated. The end of the episode is another one of those instances in which Xavier is optimistic, because the other X-Men they're talking like, well, man, this must have been horrible. What could you have possibly taken away from this? And Xavier, he basically tells them, well, the Shadow King forced me to think about why I do what I do, why I formed the X-Men, why we fight so hard for each other and for other mutants, basically why I live. And I just love how Cedric Smith delivers that line. He's happy to be awake, happy to be away from the Shadow King, happy to have bested him yet again. But, even though he is a teacher, he feels that he has learned from this experience. I think really fantastic teachers never stop learning. They consider so many experiences learning experiences. And I think this is true where Xavier is concerned. Yeah, he's been through quite an ordeal in this episode, but he takes something away from it. And it's a one-off episode, but I loved seeing the Shadow King yet again. We only get to see him twice in the animated series, unless he makes cameos in other episodes I'm not aware of, non-speaking cameos, which he very well could. I'd love to see him show up in X-Men 97, because you have Xavier and the others, they're trapped in the past. I wonder if Shadow King could possibly get up to Dickens in the present. Maybe somebody might have to deal with him if he decides to get up to antics. I'm not sure what he could possibly do, but he is a pretty spooky villain. And I tend to wonder what his shadow form as opposed to what his human form looked like. I really was creeped out by him when I was a kid, less so now that I'm an adult, of course, but he's always struck me as a very demonic character, full of tricks and manipulations, and it was fun to watch him try to manipulate Xavier into leaving our reality and heading into the astral plane with those illusions of his. Boy, that's quite a creepy scene, with paradise turning into hell there, basically. So next time we're gonna talk about courage, and we're revisiting season 2 yet again. In this episode, we got to see Shadow King make a comeback, and next time we're going to be seeing Morph as he returns to the X-Men, and it's one of my favorite episodes. I say a lot about the animated series, but I do have a lot of favorites. I think they were firing on all cylinders when they made the animated series. And yeah, Courage is going to be next. So be here for that. I'm trying to think if I missed anything in this episode. I really don't have much to say about the visuals this time around because, well, there is dialogue, but there are scenes in which I'm like, what the heck is going on here? I still really enjoy it. I give it a 9.5 out of 10, though. Just really well done with Cedric Smith and Maurice Wint working with each other. It must have been pretty interesting being in this studio as the dialogue was recorded.
Stop taking
Well, one last thing about Mr. Sinister. He only had one line, care to join her. And I wonder if they got him to, say a little something when he was recording when Christopher Britton was recording his dialogue for Beyond Good and Evil. I really liked hearing him back, even if it was just one little snippet of dialogue in the episode. Always fun to see Mr. Sinister, be he illusion or no. Yep, next time, Courage. So be here for that, and I will hear you guys then.
Stop taking video.